Transport in Dresden is determined by the political change in 1989, and the history is somehow coming from this GDR times in terms of transport. So in GDR times we had a low level on public on car traffic and a high level of public transport, and also a low level on cycling. And the political change brought a new prosperity for the people, and so a much more higher number of cars in the streets, but also the public transport remained on a certain level, because we didn't remove the tram tracks, for example, in Dresden, and now we have still tram tracks of 210 kilometers in Dresden. In comparison to other West German cities, this is a high number, a high kilometer value then. Cycling has tripled within the last 20 years then, and still public transport is one of the backbones of Dresden transport system. Dresden has developed very much after the reunification. Since 1991, the percentage of car trips increased at first, and since the year 2003, the percentage of car trips is decreasing again. So people don't have to rely on the car anymore, because they have other alternatives to move forward and to reach their goals or their targets in the city. The city tries to support public transport, and also to make some things for increasing the cycling in Dresden. So we have more cycling paths in Dresden, and also some advertising for cycling, and cycling conditions are increasing slow from year by year. I think Dresden should continue its way of reducing car traffic and improving life quality in the whole of the city, and that means that many people go by bicycle and go by public transport and use their feet to reach their places where they have to go, and that all this together will increase the life quality in Dresden. Complicated. It's a question of money for if you want to develop transport, and the emphasis is not on transport at the moment in Dresden, but on schools and kindergarten. So Dresden puts much money in building new schools, new kindergarten, but not for changing the transport system or developing the transport system too much. And also the promotion of the state of Saxony is not very good in Dresden at the moment. So the public transport company, DVB, was not able to buy new buses in the last years. They had to buy old diesel buses, and we hope the situation will be better in the next years. So Dresden has a percentage of car transport of 41% of all trips. 22% of all trips are made by public transport, 16% by cycling, and 21% of all trips are made on foot. Percentage of car trips is relatively low in comparison to other German cities, and the percentage of public transport is quite high in comparison to other cities. The percentage of cycling trips is, let's say, normal in comparison to other cities. But Dresden has made much progress in terms of cycling in the last 20 years. In Dresden we have many alternatives for getting from one point to the other point, and so the percentage of cars is not so high in comparison to other cities. The city and citizens benefit from transport alternatives through less car traffic and so less emissions from car traffic. Also, the space for cars is limited in the city, and it's good if only cars which really need to go to the city have enough space in the city. Moving by public transport in Dresden is very comfortable. You have a simple fare structure, and the cars or the public transport vehicles are very comfortable in terms of sitting and also to find your public transport vehicle at the street. A good example of promotion of public transport is the semester ticket at Dresden University. We have 35,000 students in Dresden, and they have the possibility to use public transport within the scope of their immatriculation system. In Germany we have a small expansion of stations for electric mobility. Also in Dresden we have some stations where you can charge your electric vehicle, but the electric vehicle or the electric propulsion with cars is not so good developing in Dresden and also in the whole Republic of Germany, but pedelecs are very much in common now, and we have quite 1 million pedelecs in Germany now. The advantages of electric mobility are that you have no emissions from the vehicle, but emissions come on other places, at a power station for example. And so in Germany is not the best place to have electric vehicles, because we have still power plants with CO2 emissions, and in the future, if we have really a high percentage of renewable energy in the mix of current, then electric mobility is a real thing for the future. In Dresden we have a car sharing system called Teilauto, with quite a high number of stations, I believe 41 stations in the whole of Dresden. And we have also other car sharing systems in Dresden, like Flingster, the system of the Deutsche Bahn. We have also bike sharing systems in Dresden. The most common bike sharing system is the system of Next Bike. This system is not supported by the city of Dresden, but it is working on a normal level or on a low level of rents per day. But the car sharing, the bike sharing system gives the opportunity to get a bike without living in Dresden. If you come to the city, you can just take a renting bike and explore the city by this renting bike. You need people who are ready to use car sharing systems. But of course, the car sharing system in Dresden helps to reduce the number of cars and the number of car trips, because people who use car sharing use the car only for the really necessary trips and not for the overall trip. And so it is proven that users of car sharing use much more the bicycle or the public transport for their daily trips. And if you consider the aim to reduce car traffic and to reduce car traffic emissions, then you can see that the car sharing system in Dresden helps a lot, or a little bit, to reduce the emissions and also car traffic. One good example for Dresden is the case job ticket. So Dresden tries to get much more job tickets. That means people get money from their employer for supporting their public transport ticket, and Dresden is trying to reach emission levels by getting much more job tickets, and so to fulfill the requirements of the European Union in terms of emissions of NOx and particular matters. One good example should also the freight transport tram in Dresden. We have a big company VW, Volkswagen, and the company is situated in the middle of Dresden, and the freight transport is made by this tram to the from the outskirts of Dresden to the place where the VW manufacturer is situated.